What's up guys, and welcome back to another video. For today's video, I decided to do something a little different. Today, I decided to look at the popular Friday Night Funkin' mod called Shinto's Lullaby that recently got cancelled and updated, and decided to explain the characters' backstories to you guys. Before we start, I got a mild warning because this video contains topics such as suicide and blood and gore, so if you don't like those things, I'd advise leaving now, but yeah, let's get into the video. Okay, so, the first character we're going to be talking about is Hypno. This version of Hypno originates from the creepypasta called Hypno's Lullaby. The creepypasta was actually based on Hypno's in-game Pokédex entry that states that it took away a child that it hypnotized. The creepypasta basically goes like this. Hypno hypnotizes kids and kidnaps them to feast on their dreams for all eternity. We actually see boyfriend and girlfriend both get hypnotized and kidnapped by Hypno. Another thing I'd like to point out is the reason why Hypno later on in the mod looks so grotesque and disgusting. Hypno puts all of his psychic energy into his pendulum so that way he grows more in power and size, but as a result, his body gets all grotesque basically. His body can't handle that much power, so it basically gets like that. Now, people are questioning why Hypno kidnaps kids, hypnotizes them, and feasts off their dreams. There's actually a really good reason for it. It'll have to do with this girl named Alexis. Now, we don't really know who Alexis really is. There are theories going around that she could be the trainer of that Hypno, or she was just a person that allowed Hypno to eat off her dreams. It's not really known. But regardless of whichever one it is, it seemed like those two had a great relationship. But there was one problem. Alexis was being bullied. She was being bullied so hard that she decided to take matters into her own hands and basically jump off of a bridge committing suicide. And that's where we see the little tiny Hypno in Bygone Purpose. And basically after seeing humanity mock the death of Alexis, this sends Hypno down a spiral. He starts getting really mad and wants revenge, so that's basically why he hypnotizes all the people and kidnaps them. It's a really sad backstory for a really creepy creepypasta. The next two characters I'm going to be talking about is Shinto and Grey, which are actually fan-made characters for this mod. Shinto is basically just a joke character who was found inside of a bootleg Pokemon disc for Game Boy, where in the game you got to play as Grey, who's your protagonist in the song Shinto. Everything in the song seems to be like a normal joke song until Grey actually tries to catch Shinto. At first, it works. The catch is successful. But then, it starts to get a little bit creepy when the Pokeball actually starts talking to you.
No. This isn't supposed to happen. This was never supposed to happen. You. What did you do? You cheated. Cheated.
The screen goes black, and then we're yet again met with Grey, who is actually a child soul. The developers of the game he's in actually, instead of doing programming for a character, just put a kid in the game, so that's great. And yeah, right now Grey meets... Oh. And no, I didn't say the actual word, I just added in the beat because I wanted to. Now, the reason why she has the name Hypno is because this character is basically impossible to beat without cheats and hacks, and basically because her skin, fur, whatever you want to call it, kind of resembles the texture of poop. So, there you go. Next two characters I'll be talking about is Steven and Mike, and they both originate from the creepypasta called Strangled Red. Steven was a Pokemon trainer. He was going through all the different gyms, being all like the trainers and becoming the champion. You know, the normal stuff you do in Pokemon. Now, after becoming the champion, Steven's brother Mike actually asked Steven for just a teensy-weensy little favor. He needs Steven to trade him his Charizard called Mickey, because that's the last Pokemon that Mike needs in his Pokédex. Now, during the process of Steven trading his Charizard to Mike, a loud snap can be heard, and that basically screws up the whole trading and gets Steven's Charizard stuck, and the Charizard basically suffocates and dies. This event actually causes Steven to resign as champion so he can mourn over the death of his Charizard. You know, everyone around him tells him to, you know, just not think about it, let it go, as these things happen. They just happen on its own, and there's nothing you can do about it. But Steven didn't. He kept it in the back of his mind for a whole year and wouldn't stop thinking about it. So after a long walk from Lavender Town to Pallet Town, he decided to take a rest, but he couldn't. He was just filled with so much anger, and he had to let it out on the person who killed his Charizard, his brother Mike. And I think that's actually where Steven is in the song called Dissension. He's in his room, thinking about it, and I think that creepy guy at the corner could be him thinking about Mike, like all smiling. I don't know. It's really unknown, but still, this is a really cool creepypasta. Alright, the next two characters I'm going to be talking about are Hellbell and Beelzebub, or Beelzebub, whichever one you want to pronounce it. So, in the creepypasta, the protagonist, which is unnamed, and we don't really get the name of the protagonist in the creepypasta, receives a shiny bronzong with the name Hellbell, and it has 666 stats. Now, because the protagonist was religious, they wanted to release the obviously hacked shiny bronzong, but for some reason, they couldn't release it. They find mail attached to the bronzong saying, "Please bring me back." Now, when the protagonist discards this letter, they right away get a new letter that says, "I can't go on my own, bring me back." And then the location's to Lost Tower. So the protagonist brings the shiny bronzong to Lost Tower, only to meet a man in a suit and hat named Beelzebub. And if you didn't know, Beelzebub is actually a name for the devil, so obviously this guy is bad news. Beelzebub thanks the player for bringing back the bronzong and asks for their name so that way you can say thank you properly. Now, the protagonist puts in the name that she put for the actual game, but surprisingly, Beelzebub actually rejects that name and wants the protagonist's real name. After the protagonist puts in her real name, Beelzebub says, "Thank you, miss. You'll be happy to know that you belong to me now." The bronzong uses imprisonment, and the protagonist's DS suddenly shuts off. After the story, the protagonist feels really soulless. And that's where it actually relates to the Friday Night Funkin' mod. As you can see, Beelzebub actually puts up the contract that boyfriend is typing his actual name, so that way Beelzebub can, just take his soul. And actually, when the DS shuts off, you can see boyfriend staring into the DS completely soulless, just like in the creepypasta with our protagonist. Now, it's actually unclear why Dawn is here, because in the original creepypasta, the protagonist wasn't playing as Dawn. I don't know why they added it, but hey, I guess it works. Next character, which I'm pretty sure you all are familiar with by this point, is MissingNo, which actually stands for missing number, and MissingNo actually originates from the actual Pokemon games on the Game Boy for Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue. Due to certain in-game events, players tend to actually encounter MissingNo in the game via glitch. Now, if you were actually to go ahead and catch MissingNo, there would be some side effects of that. Your Pokemon would appear all glitchy in battle, and you would have random, assets and sprites just appear in your party and on the Hall of Fame screen. And now in one of MissingNo's sprites, there's actually a Pokemon fossil. It's like a Cactus fossil, whatever kind of Pokemon that is, all showed up on the screen, but it's a reference to another Pokemon, I guess. Next character on our list is Buried Alive, and actually, he was supposed to be an in-game boss for the Pokemon Tower, but that was eventually replaced with a Marowak's Ghost. Now, before the player got to fight Buried Alive, he would say this phrase:
You're here, and I'm trapped, and I'm lonely, so very lonely. Want to join me?
Now, if the player were actually to get defeated by Buried Alive, the screen would freeze. However, there was an ending that was put there by an unknown programmer. Buried Alive would first say,
"Finally, fresh meat,"
followed up by lots and lots of gibberish. Buried Alive will then drag the player into the little crevice he's in that's surrounding him, and it would show the normal game over screen. But in the background of the game over screen, you could see a little picture of Buried Alive devouring the player. Now, I don't know how this was going to get added into a game where you literally catch little monsters and put them in your pocket, but maybe that's just me, but I don't understand how that was going to get added. Now, actually, the Gengar, the Muck, and the White Hand were all supposed to be the Pokemon that he had, and I believe the reason why the white hand turns into girlfriend with the messed up face is because it used transform. I don't know if it was just to scare boyfriend, throw off his game, or if it was because in a previous song in the original week, girlfriend died or something. It's not really clear, but still, this makes for a pretty cool song, and it's a really fire song too. Also, another thing that's really cool about this song is boyfriend actually caught and uses MissingNo in battle, which I think personally is freaking sick that first of all he caught MissingNo. This mod is just so good, man. I love it. Alrighty, next character on our list is Gold, and this man actually has a pretty sad backstory. This version of Gold, known in the Pokemon games as Ethan, comes from a haunted cartridge of Pokemon Silver, where throughout the game, he's slowly dying until at the end, he's a zombified husk that is being forcefully kept alive by MissingNos. Even after the event of the creepypasta, he's just still an empty husk being kept alive by MissingNos. I think it's actually pretty sad. Now, Gold does not want to kill Boyfriend in the mod because he is mindless and basically doesn't have emotions, which is why in the game over screen, if you don't like type fast enough or if you just, die, he basically just returns back into the darkness. Now occasionally in the background of the song called Monochrome, you can see Gold Celebi using the move Perish, which is actually a reference to the creepypasta where when Gold Celebi used Perish, it dies. Now, in the extended version of Monochrome, Gold actually says the line, and then detaches his own head from his body. And honestly, I feel bad for this dude, because he's being forcefully held to live when he was supposed to die. Like, it's just really sad. Our next character is Frozen Trainer Red. The creepypasta he's based on is called Snow on Mount Silver, and basically it's about Pokemon Trainer Red waiting atop Mount Silver with his Pokemon team for whoever tries to become champion as their final obstacle in the Kanto region. He waits to give out his title, however, should a player activate a certain glitch cheat code within either Pokemon Gold or Pokemon Silver, a horrible secret can show just what kind of damage this kind of waiting can do to a team. Now, what I just read is actually from the Funkopedia wiki. I'll leave a link to it in the description, along with the gameplay and other stuff. But getting back on track with things, we actually get to see the type of stuff that happened while Red was waiting. At the beginning of the song that he's in, he looks normal, he looks completely fine. But after he sends out Freakachu, which is the name of his Pikachu from the creepypasta, he becomes this mutilated, frozen corpse with one leg, like, completely off. He looks really disgusting, I'm not gonna lie. I guess while we're still here, we should talk about the playable character you get to play as in Frostbite, called Blake, who is another version of Gold, I guess. And his description in the mod's Pokédex says this: determined and filled with hope, this trainer's ignorance gets to him, and the Pokemon he loved. His Typhlosion's last breath will be Gold's burden of thinking before acting, even in death. Now, on the wiki, it says that Blake and Gold seem to be the same person. I don't think this is actually true, but let me know what you think in the comments down below. Oh, also, I forgot to mention, a little reference in this song is that Pikachu uses Pain Splitter, which is actually a move I believe he used in the creepypasta he's from, where it kills both him and Blake's Typhlosion. This song is definitely on one of my top favorite lists for this mod and its songs, because their songs are real bangers. They have really good songs in this mod. Next up is Glitchy Red, and this creepypasta is basically about Red knowing that he is inside a video game, so he becomes like a self-aware NPC basically, or self-aware like video game character. He's tormented by glitches being forgotten, because he knows he'll just get demoted to a final boss in the next game, always. So he decides to be in control of the game, only allowing the player, the protagonist of the creepypasta, to do what he wants. Since the game is never meant to be controlled by something inside itself, it reasonably starts to get corrupted. And you actually get to see what I meant by him saying that he becomes self-aware and knows that he'll just get demoted to a final boss in the game by this sentence that is said in this song called Isotope. I believe what he's talking about is that Boyfriend actually took Red's spot as champion and is now the new champion of the Kanto region or something like that. Also, a little reference that you can spot in the background of this song is that Girlfriend is actually trapped in a little Game Boy. I think that's a pretty funny reference in the back. And yeah, there's not really much more to say about this creepypasta. Honestly, pretty cool in my opinion. Alright guys, we're reaching the home stretch. We got 3 more characters left to cover. I guess we'll start with covering Silver, who is from the games called Pokemon Gold and of course Pokemon Silver, and is actually Giovanni's son. And if you didn't know this, Giovanni is actually the head of Team Rocket, which is like the bad organization in the Pokemon games. The Funkopedia wiki states that Silver is a lonely trainer who's always watching over a sleeping Feraligatr. Anyone who takes a secret route and comes across this duo will be challenged to a Pokemon battle against Silver and his mighty Feraligatr. In case of defeat, Silver simply just disappears. I believe this was actually what happened in the actual game. Silver just actually straight up disappears. Now there was supposed to be an ending cutscene, but it was eventually scrapped in the mod. It was supposed to be Silver ripping open his mouth and him screaming and telling his Feraligatr to actually go charge at Boyfriend and attack him, push him down into the little well or something that would lead to Monochrome actually. Now if you actually die in this song, Boyfriend has a really gruesome death. Boyfriend tries to run away and the Feraligatr wakes up and punches his brains out. I mean, just wow. I've never seen Boyfriend get a more gruesome death than this. Next up we got Disabled, which is from the song Amusia with the Ponyta and the Wigglytuff. And the creepypasta that Disabled is from, the protagonist of the creepypasta receives a Wigglytuff after trading a Totodile for it. Now, the protagonist in the creepypasta loves the Wigglytuff, so it's excited to get it caught up with the rest of its team. The protagonist immediately goes into a patch of grass, and the protagonist finds a Ponyta. So, eager to fight, he tries to use all the moves with the Wigglytuff, but none of them work. They're all disabled. Even Sing, which is why in the actual mod you get to see Wigglytuff miss all of her notes. It keeps on trying to use Sing while repeatedly saying stuff along the lines of, "Why can't I sing?" So it's left with no usable moves, and it struggles a lot. It struggles so much that in the actual creepypasta it symbolizes this by just saying it struggles over and over and over and over and over again. Now eventually, after a while, the Wigglytuff actually asks the protagonist if they can sing. The protagonist, being scared, picks no, because I just want this to end. But the Wigglytuff says, "You're lying. You can sing. Give me your sing." The protagonist hits no about 4 or 5 times, and then the Wigglytuff won't stop saying sing. It says sing over and over and over again until the protagonist gets really scared at the high-pitched sound it's making and drops their DS. They are eventually able to trade the Wigglytuff for a Cyndaquil that has the nickname Hurry. I don't actually know if the Cyndaquil is referenced in the mod at all, but Amusia is actually a really good song in the mod. But yeah. Alright, time to move on to our last and final character. Our final character is this creepy looking Jigglypuff with red eyes and gray skin. This Jigglypuff is actually based off this image that I'm going to show on screen, and may I just say, this image is terrifying. I'm definitely having nightmares tonight. Now for some reason Pico's here and doesn't have his gun. Instead he has a knife. And actually, this song is supposed to take place in the Poke Center in the background of Safety Lullaby and Left Unchecked. Now actually in the background of Purin, which is the song that the Jigglypuff and Pico are singing, you get to see a person hanged. And it is confirmed that the identity of that person is Nurse Joy from the Pokemon games. One thing I actually forgot to talk about was Pasta Night, which is basically just like a collaboration between 2 mods, Mario's Madness and VerseSonic.exe. That was a lot. I think this concludes it for today's video. This video took a long time to make, so I would appreciate it if you liked and shared it with other people. And also make sure to subscribe, and if you want to see more content like this, tell me in the comment section down below. But yeah, that's all for today's video, and I'll see you in the next one.